You're gonna stand?
No, I'm just gonna take my vitamin.
How about you? What color is that vitamin, baby?
White. It's white. I can find it. There it is.
Oh my god.
You got me now.
Okay, good.
Energized, carbed.
All right, let's start talking. That is new music by Adam Lambert. It is from his forthcoming EP. It's called Velvet Side A. Not Side 1.
Side A.
I keep messing that up.
Oh. It's like an old vinyl.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, but it's
Concept.
I know, but some of them were Side A and some of them were Side 1.
Okay.
And then the really obnoxious prog rock bands were this side and that side.
It said this side and the other side said that side?
Mm-hmm.
That's clever.
No,
I
it's
like it.
it's corny as fuck. It's corny as fuck, but back in the day when I was a kid, it was cool. So Adam is here. He's got great new music. He is rocking a Hawaiian shirt.
I guess, yeah. Something, I guess
Well,
it's
palm
a
trees.
Tree, a red palm.
Cute.
Thanks.
So before we turned the mics on, we were reminiscing about many old times. Is this like interview 33 or something like that? We have been.
So,
I was telling someone,
doing it.
we've been knowing each other since that weird TV show he was on. How about that show? You lost.
No, I didn't lose. I just didn't win. That's what I always say. It's glass half full, half empty.
No, I always say lost like, how about that? Whatever happened to the rest of them? Anyway. See, I told you I was a nasty old queen. I told you.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
So you keeping well, mister?
Yeah, really well.
You having a fun time?
Yeah, I just got off tour with Queen. So I'm still glowing from that experience. It was another North American tour. We did about 23 dates.
But this time you also kind of did your own set, right? Mm-mm. I thought you were doing your own set with the band now. Why do I have that wrong?
Not sure.
I need to edit that out. No, I'm not going to edit that out.
In the past, we've definitely done a song here or there. We did like "What Do You Want From Me" like on the last tour.
But didn't you do two fucks the time I saw it?
Yeah, a couple. Yeah, like 2 years ago. Every once in a while, we do a song. Yeah.
How are you? Let's get that out of the way. How do you juggle the two? Because you've been very, very good about keeping your identities separate. This is not this record is not merged with that life.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I do think that like the previous album, the original High, for example, that's like night and day different than a Queen sound. You know, that was like contemporary EDM, Swedish pop, glossy. This project, in my opinion, what my mission statement was when I started getting into it in the studio was, how do I do something that feels a bit closer to the Queen world, so that I don't feel like I'm like fully bipolar by the end of a year. I wanted something that felt like a natural sidestep.
Well, it has a 70s feel, but it almost feels when have you lined up the videos and watched them in order yet?
No.
You should. Because it's almost like watching a porn movie with the sex scenes taken out.
That's the best thing I've ever heard. Thank you.
Honestly, it is. It's almost like, the song ends and you're like, that's where they fuck. And then starts the next song and it's like,
sounds like Baby making music. Everybody go get your album.
Or it sounds like Baby something. But what I like about it is that I hate the word authentic, but as a guy who lived through the 70s, it looks like the 70s.
Cool. That was the idea. Yeah.
It looks like the Boogie Down, Times Square. It looks, the suits actually look like they were tailored in the 70s.
The two suits that I'm wearing in
is it Superpower?
The new Superpower video were actually cut and custom made by Edward Sexton.
Oh.
He's the guy that used to be the partner of Tommy Nutter. Tommy Nutter and him, their tailor shop on Savile Row, they made suits for the Beatles, for Elton John, for David Bowie. I mean, they were the quintessential rock and roll tailor.
Yeah.
So I did some research and found this guy, and I love those suits.
I mean, that green suit is a bit of everything.
I know.
It's a bit of everything.
Shoulders of doom.
I know. But the best moment of the video is when Adam flips his own wig. I'm like, okay, so someone's been watching Roxy Andrews, RuPaul's Drag Race. Pow!
Yeah, that was a funny decision. The director is a woman named Millicent, British director, young, cool, very funny, and we were chatting about how do we make the beginning of the video feel like a continuation from the last video, where I was hanging out in this white, like, convertible Cadillac and everything, and so we said, okay, let's bring the same outfit, recreate the look, get the car. And I said, yeah, but I cut my hair. It's different now. So we're going to wig, okay. And I said, and then I guess in the next setup I'll just have different hair. Because it's a music video. You can do that, right? And she's like, why don't you just rip off the wig and throw it in the air? And I said, absolutely, let's do it.
It's an amazing moment. But here's
Snatching
what...
my own wig.
Here is that's really...
Which actually, I didn't even think about it at the time, but now when I see it and I hear people like talking about it, it's kind of symbolic. So I'm happy about that.
What do you feel like it's symbolic of?
Well, when you say like, "Oh, I'm gonna snatch your wig," it's like I'm gonna shock you. I'm gonna gag you. I'm gonna I'm gonna rip the rug out from under you. And it's like playful. It's a fun thing.
It's a playful thing, but it's also I'm gonna expose you.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'm ready.
And you've been ready for a minute to be exposed, baby. But what that symbolized to me was exposing. And what this project feels like to me is your most relaxed musical moment.
I feel that way too.
It feels
grounded.
There's no clenching around your neck.
Nope.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm chilling.
And so what happened that calmed you down? Because all of your records have been good. But if I were to line up your records as I did, because I thought this would be fun, I'm going to listen to all of Adam's records in a row before I talk to him today. So I did. And it is like an exercise in experimentation.
Always.
Because each record is drastically different from the next one.
Absolutely.
There are common denominators in all of them, but this is the one where I feel like you took your shoes off in the studio.
I love that.
So tell me what happened.
Weed became legal in California. No, I'm just joking. I think that a lot of my mentality in approaching music up until now has been, I want to win, I want to compete, I want to be, I want to get this, and I have so much to prove, and all of that's been too much in the forefront of my mind when I've been approaching this stuff. And also, on my past albums, I wasn't in full ownership of everything that was going on. It was, signed to a major label, having an A&R person sort of pushing certain producers and putting me in the room with great producers, and that's not necessarily a negative thing, but it was a shared vision, all the other albums. I had big business behind it saying, we want this song to be this because it's this style and this is the trend and we'll put this out and this should do well and this is your demographic and all this business stuff. And that's all very important. That's how this business works. But with this project, I sort of threw that all out. And I said, you know what? I really want to make something from the heart, from the spirit, that is me and that is not so heavily influenced by the game, by the hustle. I want to do something where I'm getting into a studio with the people I want to get into the studio with. I'm telling them the style that I want to chase down. I'm showing them the references that have inspired me. And let's make an album based on that and nothing else. And so I think that created a real chill vibe for me. It created a way for me to just not be all hung up on all this other stuff.
How much of that had to do with the fact that there's always been enormous interest in who you are as a singer, as a man, and yet nobody could really completely figure you out?
Maybe because I hadn't. I don't know. I think on a personal level, the other thing that's changed is just getting a little older, getting a little wiser, getting a little bit more unbothered. I do feel like I'm in a place where I'm just more grounded. I think...
What happened? How did you get that way?
There's a handful of different things. I think the success with Queen has been really lovely. I think that's made me feel like I've accomplished something, that I've been recognized to do something credible, and work with these amazing men who also inspire me, who remind me that it's not that deep, and that at the end of the day, you just have to be proud of what you've done. They've kind of encouraged me to zoom out a little bit and not focus on the small stuff as much. Also, you know, getting a dog has been really lovely. It's made my heart grow. I'm in a relationship right now that I'm really happy in, that's very grounding. I feel like I have a lot of other little things going on with different projects here and there. I just feel more satisfied, I guess. And I think that and also just as like a person, as a human being, I think that I can say that I love myself more now than maybe I did before.
When did that happen?
I don't know. It's like a slow progression, but I think I just stopped worrying so much. I stopped kind of like comparing myself to everybody. I stopped worrying about needing as much validation and as much approval. It's like I'm finding it more within myself. And of course I have my moments where that falters, but overall I just feel like I'm in a good spot.
How much of that has to do with the overall world changing? Because the world and I met you when you were literally one of a kind. And you're still deeply unique, but it's not cover of Rolling Stone when someone comes out.
True.
Right?
True.
It's not, you're not as hunted as a person when you come out.
Right.
And I think
There's not
that
as much pressure.
Right. And so, you know, at this point, you're like, you know, the granddaddy of it all when you look around. So, and I don't mean that in terms of age. I mean, the world has changed quickly.
It has.
But how much of that informs not being, you know, I mean, you don't open your conversations with the gay card anymore, do you?
No. I think that it's, you know, gay has become so mainstream that it's sort of old news in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, trans is the new it thing that's interesting and new and subversive and progressive and very exciting. And also in the industry that I'm in particularly, we've seen other gay mainstream artists achieve success. So it's not like it's not an obstacle anymore. It's not something that has to be proven. It has been proven.
Have you, I glibly called you the granddaddy of it all, but do you feel like the pioneer that you actually are?
No, I mean, I definitely feel like I was part of an early wave in mainstream music. I'm a part of one.
I mean, you do realize that when you went top 10, it was a moment. It was a moment.
Yeah.
It was a huge moment.
The
cover
that I can't get over is the trespassing stat. When I put the trespassing album out, the album went to #1 on the Billboard charts, and after that, someone figured out, oh, you're the first openly gay man that's done that.
Yeah.
And I thought, what? Because it didn't seem like it had. I was like, no, that can't be true. But they said, yeah, no, it's true.
No, it was true. But I mean, think about how, you know,
in the U.S., by the way,
how controversial just the cover art for Your Entertainment was. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember? There were articles written just about the cover of the record before they even heard a note.
I know.
There was like they released a photo.
I had the head of the label at the time ask me, call me directly and say, yeah, this art, I just don't think it's the right cover. And I'm like, why? It's great. It's camp. It's kitsch. You know, that's what I'm going for. It's glam. You know, it's like totally that thing. And he was like, yeah, it's just, I don't know. Like, how am I going to put this on the shelves in Walmart? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's put it there. I don't know. And he goes, it's just going to be a little off-putting for certain people. And I'm like, so what? Fuck them. Meanwhile, then when they released the album on the other side of the Atlantic, they switched the picture.
See?
No one asked me if they could switch the picture. They just switched it. So
They just switched it. I remember seeing that.
Yeah. Where I'm covering my own face, literally with my hand. I mean, how symbolic is it? Like, okay, that was too much for you. How about this version? You know, you can see one eye peeking through. It's so weird. So weird to look back on it now because it seems so ridiculous.
Because it was a long time ago, but not really.
No.
But not really.
But I definitely think that I think that people are just more comfortable with it now. And I also think that social media has become such a big force in pop culture. And, you know, when you really think about it, I was coming off of American Idol right as Twitter was starting. We didn't have Instagram yet. We didn't have as much imagery being flooded into our handheld devices every day at us. What's interesting now is I think that there's so much out there. There's so much imagery. There's so much art. There's so much fashion. There's so much expression going on, and there's a lot of different types of it. The word mainstream it means something different now because there's so much to choose from, and I think that's actually created a lot of freedom for artists because now people who want to seek out something, they have a way to seek it out. It's available to them, as opposed to a smaller vacuum where the major entertainment industry is funneling 10 artists at you a year. It's totally different now. There's so much available.
It is funny, though, because as you were saying all of that, I very quickly remembered the way you actually were one of the first big pop artists on Twitter, because you remember those Glamberts.
They were all about it. That was exciting.
They kind of still are.
And it was like such a...
I mean, they were like, you would have to get online every once in a while and
break it up, ladies.
That's exactly what he would do. He'd be like, you guys need to stop.
Yeah. Fighting with each other.
Mm-hmm. Fighting with like radio programmers. If someone didn't like a certain song.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Beehive learned from the Glamberts. I had to be the one to say it.
It was early days. I mean, that was the beginning, and everybody was kind of like, "What is this?" Like,
nobody knew what to make of it.
How do we like navigate this? It was so new. It was so weird. I remember the Little Monsters. That was like Gaga was part of that wave, that first wave of Twitter too. And it was they were serious. The Little Monsters were like. They made the Glamberts look like...
Well, there were in the early days, there were the Glamberts, the Little Monsters, the Claymates. Baby. Those Clay Aiken fans, they found me. 2 of them threatened to wait outside this building.
What?
To beat my ass. Oh my God. Because before Clay came out, he did a cover of Mary Did You Know? And I just thought that was the funniest thing ever. And so I just kept playing him going, Mary, did you know? Mary, did you know? And someone would say, someone would call and say, what's the craziest thing you ever heard? And I just said, Mary, did you know? And they heard about it and they came. So, yeah. Oh, and Clay, unlike you, ignored them.
Well, he was also closeted for a long time, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was just very funny because you've been at the forefront of a lot. Do you feel tired sometimes?
No. There was a point a couple of years ago where I felt a little burnt out. Truthfully, like about 4 years ago, I was like, I don't know, and I think that was right around the time when I started working on this new project. I had done a tour of my own album, jumped right into a tour with Queen, did some TV work down in Australia. I was a judge on X Factor, which was actually a lot of fun. And I got home and I was kind of like, okay, I need a break for a minute. It had been like 2 years solid, and I got a dog, and I just kind of...
What is this dog? You are like all about this dog.
He made my heart grow. His name's Pharaoh. He's a little Chihuahua Basenji mix. He's hilarious. And I just kind of like nested with my new dog for a little while, and just like kind of spent some time by myself and my dog. Went hiking, just chilled, watched a lot of TV, probably gained about 10 pounds. But it was good. It was like I just needed to kind of like get down and chill for a minute and clear my mind before I started finding a creative bug again and the inspiration that I needed.
And so what was the first pinch of inspiration for these songs? Because they line up very, very nicely. They feel deceptive.
Deceptive?
Yes, they feel...
In what way?
I feel like they're saying one thing on the surface and saying something completely different underneath.
Ooh, I like that. Complicated.
Well, yeah, because I think you're way more complicated than you want people to realize.
Perhaps.
I've been knowing you for a minute, madam.
My friends have been calling me madam for years.
I know. So... yeah, I can't figure out if it is... I mean, the execution is chill, but there is a joy, but there's also, I feel like by going back, a kind of a questioning if I'm honest, and I might be projecting too much, but I'm going to just do it, and you can say you're an idiot. I feel like there's a questioning by going back to a kind of like a very raw, basic time in life and music, that you wanted to get rid of all the nonsense so you could figure out who exactly you were.
Yeah, I think there's some truth there.
Yeah?
Yeah. Get back to the classic. What I grew up listening to my parents' vinyl around the house. And my dad was like a Deadhead, and he listened to a lot of classic rock and prog rock and Zeppelin and the Beatles and all that stuff. And my mom was also listening to a lot of that, and then she also liked soul and funk music. I mean, Sly Stone was playing, Al Green, Roberta Flack, like all these great artists. In an era, I mean, in my opinion, I do think the 70s were sort of like the golden age of music. There was such amazing music coming out of that time.
Yeah.
With so much feeling. And the 70s were such an interesting era socially. People were really, like, coming together. I mean, there was a lot of, like, joy and diversity. And before AIDS hit, I mean, like, the gay scene was starting to, like, really become a thing. And it was... Anyway,
70s were, yeah, I know you're right, because 70s, you merged it with Studio 54. It was a cool to be gay kind of era.
Yeah.
And it was also the fatigue of war from the 60s gave way to, can we just put something sparkly on and fuck?
Yeah. Let's just have a good time.
Right?
Let's escape.
That's what, if you go back, all great music from the 70s is about getting dressed and getting laid.
Yeah. And having a good time and smiling and connecting.
And actually laughing. Remember when funny songs were a thing?
Yes. And people were dancing.
Yeah.
Really dancing.
I mean, and you know, the authenticity of the whole package of this project really brings that back, and it also kind of, I think, places you in a really interesting framework in that those were also the days where any kind of artist who was good could be a star.
It felt to me like that at that time in the industry, they recognized talent, and that was important. That was high on the priority list. Could you play a song live? If you couldn't really cut it live, you weren't taken seriously. It's like it wasn't a thing, and that is a big difference of where we're at today. There's a lot of artists that really can't perform live, and it doesn't matter. They're still successful because that's not really the barometer that we measure things by now. And that's fine. Not bitching, but I love that about the 70s. I love that it's about the groove and about the talent and about the vibe. And all those vinyl recordings that were always being played in my house, that had to have just kind of by osmosis sunk into my being and made me love music. Those were the songs and the artists that made me understand what music was. So when I started the process, I kind of thought, how do I get back to sort of why I'm doing this in the first place? The game, the hustle, the industry, the likes and the followers and all that stuff, it can burn you out after a while. And I was like losing the plot. You know what I mean? I was missing the point of it all. So I kind of got back down to sort of like focusing on where's the joy, where does that lie, where is the love here? And I love performing. I love making music. I love singing it. I love saying something. I had to get back down to like the root of it all, and a lot of that was a lot of the music that I grew up with. Well,
it's working. It's working. The EP is called Velvet Side A. It's out on September 27th. I'm going to listen to a little bit of Superpower right now, right here. It's always good to see you, darling.
Thank you. Likewise.
I'm Larry Flick, and this is Sirius XM.
Back down to like the root of it all. And a lot of that was a lot of the music that I grew up with.
Well, it's working. It's working. The EP is called Velvet Side A. It's out on September 27th. I'm going to listen to a little bit of Superpower right now, right here. It's always good to see you, darling.
Thank you. Likewise.
I'm Larry Flick, and this is Sirius XM.